Welcome to Unleashed, where MMA icon and power wrestling titan Dan the Beast Severn and Eric Carroll deliver a knockout punch of raw, unfiltered talk. Unleashed. Gear up. Gear up. It's beast mode.
The Florida territory was the hottest territory in the country. I mean, it was the absolute hottest territory in the country. Every major star came through Florida. I went from elementary school, from junior high school through high school. I signed a dual wrestling scholarship to the University of Tampa for wrestling and football, and they folded football in '76 because the Buccaneers came. I wound up going to St. Leo College because my second choice, Louisville, ran out as a scholarship. So Vince Gibson sent me to Dade City up here to this Catholic college, and I played club football there for 6 months. We played a lot of JV teams from played Duke. One of my favorite games we played was Gallaudet College up in Washington, D.C. It was for the deaf and dumb, and we had this real cocky running back named Tony Leone, and we had a decent team. But you walk into the lunchroom and it's completely silent, and he's keeps cracking these jokes, and I'm about ready to punch him. Talking about, they're going to get so many penalties for piling on, and how are these dumb people ever going to play football? I mean, just stupid, ignorant comments, and the rest of the team's very cordial. St. Leo College was a good college. And anyway, we wound up getting beat by 2 touchdowns. And it's the only game that I ever, or any kind of sport, that I was happy that we lost.
Okay, couple questions for you. First off, what position did you play in football?
I played nose guard and offensive guard, both.
Wow, you're right in the heat of all the battles then.
Oh yeah.
Being a nose guard, you're getting hit from a couple of different directions. Although your whole purpose is to be disruptive and destructive yourself, but you're still going to be, it's kind of give and take when you're in that interior like that. I love the sport of football more than I did the sport of wrestling, but the hard part was you had to have 10 other players that had played with your same enthusiasm, because if they didn't and you lost, it's kind of like going, it made me mad to lose. I did not like losing.
No, nobody likes losing. That's why, I preface that the only time I didn't mind losing was because of this cocky guy, Leone. I mean, he would drive me nuts with his cockiness, and especially when you're being cocky at the expense of physically challenged people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man!
Now, how did they? Because I've actually been involved in a couple blind and deaf amateur wrestling matches, but how did they conduct a football game? I mean, because that's
what they do is they have a drum on the sideline, and the deaf can hear the vibration quicker than you can hear, the sound.
Yeah, well, their senses. They have different senses that are a bit more acute than the normal people.
Right, Dan. So somebody, I don't know what they're called, but they hit a drum, and in perfect sequence, they can hit it 6 times. You don't know which beat they're going to go on. So, and then when the play's over, they either hear the drum beats, referees, either through motion, through sound, they're right on top of it. I mean, they were I think that I don't recall how many penalties they had, but it was very few, very, very few penalties.
Yeah.
And, it was quite interesting. That's where Blair filmed The Exorcist.
I've done blind matches before, because there used to be a school in Michigan, and we did this match, but you had to, one hand had to be up and one hand had to be down. I'm trying to see how my hands can be showed there, but that's how you had time. And then they would come in with their hand just opposite, so that in a wrestling match, you just barely touched hands, and that's how the referee would start the match.
Right,
And
correct.
here you're kind of feeling a little bit sorry for the fact that you're about to wrestle this blind kid, but all of a sudden, but he is so used to wrestling from this position, all of a sudden he shoots right on in. He's got you on your back, and you realize you're about to be pinned by a blind kid. Okay, it's like your fellow teammates are not going to let you live that one down.
Right. No. That's a whole different story. You know,
Yeah.
you're fairly equal then. You know, I mean, uh, it's different. You know, in professional wrestling, have you ever had a blindfold battle royal?
No, well,
Never even heard that.
no,
Never heard of that? Oh, that was
No.
Buck Robley, this Booker Buck Robley, and he wrestled too. That was his favorite gimmick match for like Halloween and things like that. He'd have a blindfold battle royal, and everybody would go in with a blindfold.
yeah.
And oh man, the high spots were crazy. So you'd shoot somebody in, bend over for a backdrop. He'd run past you and go over the top rope, and just you're hitting the wrong guys. No, hit the other guy. They're all screaming, no, get this. No, he's a good guy.
That was the blindfold gimmick. Could you actually see through it?
Sure.
Yeah. I'm gonna say it's professional wrestling to me, but at the same token, you're having a time of your life because it's like two guys backing into each other. So it's like back and then you start, trying to throw punches, and yeah. I actually have watched that before, and now that I'm thinking about it, it's like I actually do believe I was involved in one of those. It was like one of the most comical things ever. So yeah.
Brian, when did you develop your love for pro wrestling? I know you said you came from the Florida area. I do believe that was Eddie Graham, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so many great wrestlers came out of that area. But when did you very first start taking that love and that passion for pro wrestling?
I moved here from Gary, Indiana, and when I was 11, and back then there was only a few channels. There was a channel called WTOG in Tampa, and that's where Championship Wrestling from Florida aired on Saturdays. And Gordon Soley was a tremendous announcer, and I just heard his voice, and I saw these guys, fighting, and naturally it piqued my interest and started watching it. And Jack Briscoe, who became one of my best friends, he pulled lots of jokes on me, but anyway, he was a wonderful, wonderful man, and I still see Gerald, his brother, all the time. But Jack Briscoe was just like such a hero to me, such a baby face and a good guy, and really, really loved Jack. And I got to know Buddy Colt. I was raised, since I was 13, my parents have been divorced, and I've been on my own since right before my 16th birthday. And did a lot of things in my life, from welding mailbox posts, working at Kmart, selling shoes, to newspaper routes, selling cookware, china and crystal, as a hope chest item to girls before they got married, and just pulled out my yearbook and did everything I could to survive. And I watched wrestling, and I said, that's what I want to do. That's really what I want to do. And so my whole outlet in life was sports and education. My dad always told my mom and dad. My mom lives in my guest house now, and my dad lives with me right now. He's 90 years old. And
Wow.
It's
the fact that your father's still around at 90. Wow.
Yeah. They're actually better friends now than they were. But it's kind of cute. She comes over and has coffee with them in the morning, and they chit chat. But anyway, my dad always told me, to do good in school, to have manners, respect. He taught me all the right things. Even though we didn't see each other a whole lot, but even from that younger age, I still remember him, teaching me to ride a bicycle and things like that. And so I've always had the utmost respect for my parents, and my dad gave me just some wonderful, wonderful information that helped me to apply logic and want to make the most of my life. And one was, again, education, and two was sports. Sports was more, it was like my outlet from, I had a lot of frustration. I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and, your mom and dad gets divorced and you're not the happiest camper in the world. And so sports, as you know, Dan, is like a tremendous outlet. It's a great stress relief. It's good for everything about you, except for maybe your body in the long term. And, I still have the record for the most letters at my high school. I lettered 4 sports in 1 year: football, baseball, track and field, football, baseball, wrestling, track and field, overlapping. So
yeah, I always did 3 sports. There's always football in the fall, wrestling during wintertime, track and field during springtime. But I had to deal with the track coach knowing that if there was a Saturday track meet and there was a Saturday amateur wrestling meet, odds were he wasn't going to see me at the track meet. And that made him mad because I was doing different events that I would always score points for the team. So it was like, well, I did it for the cardiovascular and to help out the team. But my investment into my future was my sports, my athletic background, just like what yours, Brian, was like, am I going to ask mom or dad for money to go to college? No, because there is no money to ask for, because I'm one of 8 kids. I'm son number 2. That's all. When people would come, we're like, which one are you? I'm son number 2. Again, that's all it was. So where did you fall on the totem pole? And there was 5 males and 3 females. So it's like none of us ever asked parents for money to go to college. We all, on a bragging part, all 5 Severn males went to college on full athletic scholarships for the sport of amateur wrestling.
Oh, wow.
And my 3 sisters went to college basically on full academic. So I always try to tell people I'm an athlete with a brain, not a dumb jock, because trust me, I've been around a lot of dumb jocks, and I'd rather have an athlete with a brain any day. They're coachable, way more coachable.
Do you attribute that to your parents?
What's that?
Do you attribute that?
Oh, definitely. Oh, yes. Definitely. Them parents, even grandparents, just growing up around them.
Oh, yes. Yeah. My grandfather on my father's side, we were tighter than peanut butter and jelly. I mean, he was fantastic, and he lived in Arkansas. He raised cattle in Arkansas. First, he raised tomatoes for Libby's in Indiana. He had 50 acres of tomatoes, and then he bought an 1,800-acre ranch in Arkansas and had 300 head of cattle, like 100 pigs, horses. There was everything there. It was like a paradise for me in the summer times. So that's where I would go, grow up. I even took a lot of the boys there, Lynn Denton and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, and some very memorable trips, even, after high school and college.
Yeah, no, I grew where I grew up, 120-acre farm, and basically about 80 of it was tillable, and the rest of it was just woods, creeks, things of that nature. So I always tell people I live kind of like a Tom Sawyer type of growing up, fishing, swimming in the creek and things of that nature, and just building forts and having swings across the creek and things of nature. It's just a wonderful place. But you worked your butt off though too, because you had you named the animal, we raised it, but you learned real quick you don't give it pet names, because sooner or later it's going to end up on your table. So,
Brian, what age was you when you broke into the business?
I graduated from high school when I was 17, and I started wrestling for Hiro Matsuda. Back then you didn't just pay somebody to break in,
right?
You had to pay your dues, and so we called it the dungeon. And out of 3.5 summers training there, only several of the guys that made it big didn't make it. They didn't make it in at Heroes. They left and broke in somewhere else. But out of those 3.5 summers, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, Hulk Hogan, and myself were the only 3 that stayed. Several other wrestlers, 5e, I mean, lots of guys left. And dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens without their clothes. I mean, they would just run out of that place because they wanted you to break somebody's arm and stuff. And
did you ever get your leg broken, similar to Terry Bollea?
No, I never did. I didn't, and
Was you there when that happened?
no, I was already.
You had
I,
already.
I left for Watts's territory, or no, I left for Kansas City. I think it was Kansas
Okay.
City, first territory. Yes, and Terry came back from Pensacola and got with Hero, and I think it was kind of a grudge thing. There was a little heat there, and Hero wanted to kind of show Terry. And Terry, believe me, a lot of people don't think Terry's a tough guy. He can hold his own. He can definitely hold his own. He learned a lot from being in there. We had some great guys. Carl Gotch would be in there all the time. Gordon Nelson. We had a lot of hookers. And a lot of good amateur wrestlers like Bob Backlund. The Briscoes, of course, and a lot of people to teach you both sides of the ropes, because when you're amateur wrestling, I would set myself up automatically. You tight waist somebody and they double wrist lock you, Dan, you know both sides of the sport. So, even more than that, deeper than that. And so amateur wrestling, as Dan can attest, a lot of times sets you up for the hooker. But it definitely helps. Don't get me wrong. It definitely helps. Wouldn't you say, Dan?
Yeah, the one thing that I was going to actually make a comment on was that the marquee always says professional wrestling. The product that I see a lot of times nowadays, there's so much promo work, so many high spots, but there really is no wrestling. There'll be typical punches, kicks, whip them off, and clothesline them by going. But what happened to this word called wrestling? Whatever happened to simply just take someone off their feet, put them down on the ground, do a couple things down on the mat there to where, again, it's just an old-fashioned stand up, work the hands, or do a little switch or something like that. But hardly anyone does actually any kind of wrestling anymore. It's all just all high spots and
well,
I don't know.
a match I'll remember all my life, and I may have it on tape here. I just got Howard Brody's collection of tapes. Well, I've had them for a long time, but I just found them actually. And you came into Tampa for Howard Brody, and we worked together. And we wrestled, and we tore the house down. I mean, it was great. It was a great match.
Okay, we were doing wrestling though, right? We did
exactly. I watched wrestling now, and one time I asked Vince, why is the product so fast now? Why is just as you just said, there's so many high spots and all that. He said, video games is our number one multi-profit center. He said, the more moves they get in, it teaches the kids more moves, and they can do more moves in the video games. And so it's all about the money. And so they kind of gear the in-ring product a lot towards the kids being able to maneuver it in the video games. So, and then when he changed it to sports entertainment, of course, kayfabe went away, and the whole sport changed to sports entertainment.
Yeah. No, it changed a great deal. And again, that was basically, again, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, that was just a big business move based on Vince, just so that he no longer had to go through the different athletic
correct
commissions. And that was, but even then, I still think that on an annual basis, these professional wrestlers should have a physical and blood work should be done, because there is a lot of blading or getting color in a match. And then to me, I like to kind of know that whoever is bleeding out in this ring is Hep B, Hep C, HIV negative. So
yeah, there was a big lawsuit over that with Abdullah and one of the podcast guy trying to
Hannibal.
Devin. Hannibal. Yeah, Devin. So, yeah, you're right.
But just on the physicality, because some guys they get that point that you wonder how they're not real good, they're in horrible shape, but they still. Professional wrestling is just one of those industries. There is no retirement plan. There's no 401k. There's no pension program or anything like that. So literally, you have to have some type of savviness to you to save some money, invest some money, because sooner or later we're going to be gray-haired older men that you can't continue to do the sport, and you
Right.
have to rely upon your other skill sets and the fact that you made some smarter investments when you were younger. So
Yeah, one of the best things I did, I listened to this tape called "The Richest Man in Babylon," and the premise of "The Richest Man in Babylon" is that you take 10% of everything you make. If it's $100, it's $10, and you put it in the bank. You call it the ABC account or whatever you want, and when you get up to $1,000, you buy a certificate of deposit, and you make $1,000, you put $100, but you have to be disciplined, and it has to be your first bill. And I did that since I was like 22 years old, and I bought Gold's, started my Gold's Gyms business, which when they weren't for sale, I sold for millions, and it allowed me to, I don't have to worry about paying my light bill, which I'm very blessed about that. And I've run for, this is 10 years now, the Cauliflower Alley Club, and we give away a lot of money. Since I've been the president, we've given away about $1 million to wrestlers that are down on their financial luck. And it's not a loan, we give it to them, and we're all volunteer. My wife thinks I'm crazy because I spend $1,500 to go to Vegas, and and then I work all year long and don't make a dime for it in between things where I could be making money. And but it's just something where I feel very connected to the boys and to the girls, to the talent, because you might not have wrestled in the Portland territory, but eventually, you had all these territories to go to. So the guys kept worked their asses off to keep these territories going, to make a living. And so basically we're all connected. I went to Kansas City, I went to New York. I wrestled a lot in 2 different tours in New York. Before I wrestled for Vince McMahon Sr. He put the B in my name, B. Brian Blair, and because it was a nickname. And so I just feel so connected, and so grateful to all the people that are in the business or were in the business, that it's a labor of love to spend all this time to create a tremendous happening, which we have our 58th reunion. It was established in 1965, the CAC. We have our 58th reunion coming up August 19th through the 21st. And, it's a tremendous honor to be honored by your peers. And we have some tremendous talent that comes every year. And, we sell out every year. It's a great time.
Yeah, no, it's I've been to the Cauliflower LA event on I think 3 or 4 different occasions over the decades. It's really something special to see. I mean, there's just again a lot of people that were like my heroes and stuff like that to look up to. Before and then to move on. It's I'll say it's twofold. I mean, it's sometimes it's kind of sad to see people that were once so strong and virile and stuff like that, and then you see them, now they're not. They're so much further along in their years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just know that they've always had some good people up there by the stage, taking care of the folks that get up to the stage. Because it's do they still get like the next speaker? Do they get them up close to the stage before going on?
It's totally transformed since you've been there. We have it's not just older talent. For example, last year we had CM Punk.
Oh wow.
JBL, Ron Simmons, Yes. Let's see, the Tommy Rich, Kevin Sullivan, Conan, we just Rey Mysterio Jr., just a litany of great talent, some that still work, some that are retired, but Sting will be there this year. We've got a tremendous lineup.
Wow.
Again this year, so it's not just old people. I mean, we've gone, just mainstream.
Well, is it again? Is this part of? Do you have another group of men that help come up with help lead this and come up with new ideas of how to keep, kind of like keep reinventing the Cauliflower Alley Club so it keeps it
Sure.
more up
Sure.
to
We have a flow chart. I'm the president and CEO, and then we have a board. Of course, I answer to the board, but
how many board members?
Five
Okay.
board members, and then we have another board, an advisory board with 8 members. So there's 13 board members, and then everybody has a role, a responsibility, and we have another 20 volunteers besides that. So we have over 30 people helping at all times. So I'm always wide open. My ears are wide open to new suggestions, and they email them in. We have a great website at caulifloweralleyclub.org, and sometimes people email suggestions there. They come from the board. Medusa's on the board. We have a lot of people that are good thinkers. Ron Hutchinson, who trained a lot of people in Canada, and Rich Engling, who was very good at finance, and ran the security for several casinos in Vegas. I mean, just some great board members. Royal Duncan's our longest serving board member. He's been there for 30 something years. He runs Royal Publishing. So when you join the Cauliflower Alley Club, it's only $35 to join for a year, or $400 for a lifetime membership. It entitles you to come to the reunion, which we have very inexpensive hotel rooms, like $46. And the reunion itself is only $150, and that includes all kinds of events, 2 wonderful meals. And so it's very affordable, family friendly. We don't allow anybody that's a jerk there. Any jerks get thrown out. And we've only had to do that, I think, in 10 years, 2 people.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty darn good. Yes.
Especially for that industry. That's really good.
Yes, it is. And so, people it's a great time. It's very addicting now. It's like you go there and you meet all these wonderful people, and it's like, a family reunion, a giant family reunion.
I think one of the things that we've seen growing up, especially for me as a fan, is the amount of these guys that, I grew up watching that have lost their lives. I know that's had to be a very hard thing for the both of you, the colleagues that you grew up with in this business, and seeing how many of them are passing away.
Yeah, you're right, Eric. Unfortunately, I was just at Bray Wyatt's funeral a couple months ago, and Mike Rotundo and Stephanie are both good friends of ours, and that's very tough. 35, 36 years old. That's way too young. And so many others have passed at a young age, and even like Buddy Colt, who was a great mentor of mine, died at 84, I think it was. And, that was too young. I mean, he was in good health, actually, but things happen, and it's probably the highest mortality rate of any industry.
Yeah.
Why do you guys think that is?
It's just a tough industry on the body overall. I mean, when you think about repetition, always being picked up and taken bump after bump after bump, and the people just don't understand. the trauma that does to the body internally, externally, and without giving your body time to really rest and or heal. Because it's kind of like you got to be at the next gig, and you're working injured, and you try to protect this, and you try to tell whoever you're working with that night, okay, I got this aching and that aching, and they usually have a couple of different aches and pains too. So it's kind of
and the next gig brings about mental emotion. You're missing your family, your kids. Fortunately, most of my career, my full-time career, I didn't have children, and so it was easier for me. But when I was a Killer Bee with Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, Jimmy's like 7 years older than I am, and he had a couple children, and he would, we were in Australia, I remember, and he just like broke down because he was missing Jimmy, his son's graduation from
you're missing birthdays, graduations, holidays, the list goes on. Or just they're hurt, they're sick, they just want dad to give them a hug or something like that, hold them. So
67 days in a row we worked one time. Valentine and Beefcake were on that tour. 67 days in 5 different countries. Some of them are double shots, no days off, straight. That's heavy.
Right. I guarantee you, there were those days when, as you're waking up in the morning, as you're rubbing the sleep out of your eyes, you're looking around and wonder, and you had to think for a moment, okay, where am I at, and what is my function today? What city am I at? What state am I? What country am I even at?
Been to some strange countries. People that complain about America,
you ain't kidding.
Fools. I mean, they're fools. Fools, because they haven't been. You go to Malaysia or Singapore, you witness people getting caned or killed for a joint. Just incredible stuff. Driving down India, down dirt roads for highways, no free speech. I mean, you call the government a name and you're going to jail. I mean, people just do not understand. It really irks me when I see people complain about this country. America is a land of opportunity, and it's the greatest country in the world. And I just cherish and pray for all the people that fought and died for this nation and continue to strive to make this country a better place. We're blessed to be here.
Oh no, the United States is still the land of opportunity. I mean, it's a lot of wacky things that are happening right now, but it's kind of like going, hopefully the good will prevail in all. That's what I'm hoping for.
I pray that all the time, that the evil will fail and the good will prevail.
Yeah.
All the time, every day.
I'm curious, Brian, when you think about the Cauliflower Alley Club, is there one story that kind of sticks out to you more than others? Like of the wrestlers that have been impacted with this?
Well, I'll tell you a recent one.
Okay.
CM Punk. He had never been to a Cauliflower Alley Club reunion. And, he was, I got to know Phil, Steve Kern, who's one of my best friends in the whole world, trained Phil, and he got voted on number one choice for the Iron Mike Mazurki Award. And so I call him up, Phil, and Steve makes the introduction. I had met him in training camp when he was just starting. So, but he remembered me, but from TV too. He was very, very polite. And I'm very humbled. He was very, very humbled to be honored. But then he said, I just want to go there and, kind of disappear. I just want to go there for the event. And then I'm going to, just do a quick speech and split if that's okay. I said, it's up to you, brother. I mean, it's, you're the one being honored. You got 15 minutes. To make a long story short, he was everywhere with all the people, taking pictures, signing autographs. His speech went 30 minutes. He had so much fun. He called me. He said, that was the greatest event I have never felt so good about being honored by my peers. He said this was just absolutely amazing. And he just could not stop saying what a good time. He went from that kind of pessimistic to over optimistic feeling. And then I thought that speaks volumes about, what the CAC is about.
Around what year did you stop pro wrestling, Brian?
I had my final match on July 16th, I believe it was, 2019.
What was that like for you to step away?
It was difficult, very difficult, but I've had 4 back surgeries since then. I got osteomyelitis in the hospital, which crippled me. I had to learn to walk all over again. My right leg is still numb. My feet are numb. My buttocks are partially numb. My back from the middle of the spine all the way up is numb. And I have hardware in me from attached to my pelvic all the way up like a railroad track. And the osteomyelitis ate my spine up. So I had to take this drug called Forteo. I didn't even know there was such a medicine. And I gained 8 pounds in 3 months, and it was all bone. That's how much bone I had lost. So I went from, you have to do a bone mass. And fortunately, I went to the right doctor. The other doctor that I had scheduled on December 27th of 2022, I was scheduled to go see a Dr. Samuel Joseph. And another one of my best friends, Terry Blair, calls me up and he says, Brian, he says, when are you getting surgery? And I said, December 27th. He said, oh, that's great. Who are you going to see? I see Dr. Samuel Joseph. He goes, oh, don't go see him, man. That's the worst doctor I ever had. He actually put a welding torch to my back. I've never had so much pain in my life. He screwed me. Went on. So I can't. And he never was going to take a bone density test. So finally, after interviewing 5 other doctors, I got to this Dr. Alakani, who's the head neurosurgeon, called out to Phoenix, and the doctor in Phoenix referred me, who used to be the head surgeon at Tampa General, referred me to Dr. Alakani, who is the head surgeon, brain and spine surgeon. And he said, you can't get an operation without getting a bone density test because you have hardware in you. And if your bones are too soft or brittle, you will fall apart on the operating table and you'll either be paralyzed or you're going to die.
Oh.
So I took the bone density test. I was way out of operating order, the operating range. And in 3 months, I was back into the middle of the best operating range just from this bone building medicine called Forteo. But now I have to be on this bone medicine called Prolia for, you take that only once every 6 months for the rest of my life. And because of the osteomyelitis, I have to take an antibiotic for the rest of my life. So osteomyelitis is the very, very worst pain in the entire world. I've had a kidney stone, 2 kidney stones. I've had all kinds of, I've had 22 operations from the wrestling business. I mean, I'm scarred from my hand. It's totally, my neck, knees, shoulders, nothing hurts, nothing like osteomyelitis, because it's like Pac-Man just eating your bone. And it feels like somebody's going pow, pow with a knife, just stabbing you, constantly stabbing you. I've heard stories about people just screaming nonstop for hours and hours and hours, no matter how much pain medication, whatever, the Dilaudid, everything, intravenous, still screaming. It's brutal. And so anyway, I went through that, and thank God I found this Dr. Alakani. He's just, he is amazing, just amazing. And I don't know if you could, let me try to blow this up a little bit. This is, let's see, this is my spine. It's kind
Oh
of
wow.
blurry, I think. Let me see if I can get just to one. Or in the middle. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Yeah.
Can you? Let me see.
Yeah.
You can see that. Maybe
Ouch.
that one's a little better. I mean, I don't know if you can actually see
Yeah.
the spikes in there, but
Wow.
it was brutal. I mean,
So Brian, when you go through the airport, obviously you don't go through the metal detector because they got to take you around the side and wind you down because
yeah, I just told them. I just tell them right up front. Look, I'm all metal. I just need to go right in there, so they take me right to the side. I don't even wait for them to want me.
That had to be scary to get that call from Hulk too, because he's had to let like 9 back surgeries of his own.
10.
10.
Mm-hmm.
Now this last one took better than most of the rest, right?
Well, he's really challenged right now walking.
Yeah.
He's got to use crutches. Not all the time. I mean, he could go a little ways, but it took so much out of him. It's a shame,
It is.
It really did, and that was primarily from an overdose of vancomycin. And there's so many ways you can, you take risk every time you get surgery. There's a risk, and I'm just looking for a different picture for you, but Dan, I don't know how much you've been injured. I think everybody's been injured somehow in the business some way, but you're the beast though. So
no. I've been hurt far worse in professional wrestling than anything else I've ever done. I mean, ironically, I always tell people, Kidley, that the safest thing I ever did was cage fight.
no way.
That was the safest thing I ever did.
Every interview, man, that is crazy. The damage that you guys went through, but obviously it was a fun job. But I mean, I'm curious, Brian, if you would have knew the injuries that you would go through in your life, if you had it to do all over again, would you do it the same way?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
That tells you the love for the business.
Yeah, there's there's my.
Well, that's your back. Yeah, I'm gonna say they filleted you open, filleted you.
Yes.
Now, how is it doing now?
It's doing good. I had one of the rods came out in December, this past December, and so the 29th of December I had surgery again. They had to go in and cut back open and replace 2 rods and some screws in the bottom, but it healed quickly. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I was perfect now. I can't get out and run and play golf and ride my Harley. I got a Harley sitting that I've been just dreaming about riding, and I haven't been able to ride that for 3 years. But I'm hoping.
It's gonna happen.
There's a lot of things that. But I count my blessings. I stay positive. I'm getting ready to go to Germany on the 11th. I do lots of autograph sessions. Like I said,
I mean that's kind of interesting. I was just recently contacted by a German company as well. Just within the last, I'll say, less than 2 weeks ago, I was just contacted by a German company. I was like, wow. And then to hear that you'll be heading off, it's like, I never heard much about things taking place in Germany.
I've never been to Germany as many countries. I've been to like 50 countries, and I've never been to Germany. So I decided, I'll go to Germany.
Well, again, the first time I went to Germany, it was both East and West Germany. The first time I went, because I always tell people that I arrived in West Germany, and then by bus they had to take us by bus to pass through the Iron Curtain, and then to see the Berlin Wall. And a lot of people, that time era has come and has gone. It's like going, well, no, that's where again, the internet, because we have the internet now that I talk to all kinds of people. And then this newest group, they're like, "Oh, well, Dan, we'd like to bring you to Germany. Have you ever been to Germany before?" And I go, "Well, yes, many years back." But I go, "That's when it was two Germanys at that time, both East and West." They're like, "Wow."
Yeah. I was
History.
in Russia in '93. That was interesting.
Yeah.
It's amazing the places the business will take you to.
Oh, it is, and again, the fact that you get treated really well when you get to go to these places, but then you get to see things that I remember, like the first time going into oh gosh, Mongolia, Bulgaria, countries like that, but then going into, gosh, what was the one place I tell the story about all the time? I know is that going to the Grand Bazaar. Here we're getting ready to go to the Grand Bazaar, and I saw a lot of people that they're missing their right hand, and I'm like going, what's the deal about all the people missing the right hand? They're like, oh, the interpreter, I'll say the combination interpreter / bodyguards that are kind of watching us. They're like, oh, that was a thief. Here they don't play. They take a thief, cut off the right hand, and you kind of marked for like that was okay. Turkey, the country of Turkey.
Yep, and that's what I was saying about the appreciation for America.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, no, it is one of those. It's like you can drink the water, you can turn on the light switch, you have indoor plumbing.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I make a shameless plug for my book, Truth Be Told, and
I like that.
I like that.
All kinds of stories in here from that you guys would know and appreciate. I mean, it's a 5-star Amazon rated book, and it's really got a lot of some interesting overseas stories, Orndorff, Big John Stud, all kinds of, Hulk Hogan, different people that we all know. Very honest, open, and it's available at Amazon or at thekillerbstore.net.
I'm definitely going to get a copy of that. We're supposed to have Paul's son on very soon to talk to him. I know we lost him not long ago.
Paul was my best friend. Gosh, Paul and I were everywhere together from the time, from the dungeon. It's like we went to the same territories. We were always in the same territories, whether it was Georgia, New York, Watts's territory. We just grew up together from start to finish. And even he died in July. I had the roughest July. This is why I'm going to say to your audience, keep a positive attitude, and it doesn't matter who you are. Sometimes we all get challenged. In the month of July of 2021, I lost my favorite dog, my golden retriever Buddy, and that was sad for me because he did everything. And then Paul Orndorff died, and I had just seen him a month before, and I was every autograph session I would go with him, and we were in Niagara Falls, not that much further, and then on the 16th of July, I go into the hospital with osteomyelitis. I mean, not right before I had osteomyelitis, just for a second back operation, and I get out on the 22nd of July, and I get home, and I'm developing this pain that I don't understand what it is. And it's like somebody's stabbing me in the back. And that's when I had contacted osteomyelitis. And then all of a sudden, these detectives come to my door and said, "Your son's been murdered." Oh. And if I didn't have so much faith, I think I would have thrown in the towel.
Wow.
No matter what happens to you, there's always a lot to live for. and you have to be positive. You have to get up every morning. It still hurts. People have things far worse, and it will always hurt. But if you keep a positive attitude, if you have faith, I'm a big believer in God Almighty, and I'm a Christian, and I practice what I preach, and I love people, and so I get joy out of doing podcasts, out of seeing my wrestling family, and it brings a lot of joy to my heart. I've got a beautiful wife, I've got another son, and got my mom and dad here, so there's a lot to be thankful for, no matter what happens to you. It's just
you said that you got your mom and dad, they're still alive?
Yes, my mom lives in my guest house. I live on a lake, and she lives on the guest house next to the pool, and my dad lives in one of my son's rooms on the other side of the house. So
wow, I mean, that's
his own little world there, and he just lost a leg, but he gets around really good.
Diabetes?
No, yeah, actually, he got misdiagnosed for a skin infection on his leg, and his primary care doctor was treating him for like 3 months with this ointment, and then anyway it got really bad and went to a vascular surgeon, and he had a blockage, so getting any blood to his leg, and by then gangrene had set in, and it was
I get you. No, again, you start getting to a certain age, and it just the body starts to wear out, and then this is just one thing to the next, and I mean, that's you still have your parents. That's really something. I mean, both mine passed in their early 70s, and that was kind of sad for them to be gone already. So
yeah, that's young, really.
Well, we're near the end of the show. I'm going to have to cut it here in a second, Brian. I can't tell you how much I appreciate everything that you do, man. I mean, you got a remarkable story. I love your heart. I love what you do for the wrestlers there at the Cauliflower Alley Club. Guys, please go check that out. caulifloweralleyclub.org. Is that right, Brian?
Yes, sir. It is, Eric.
Please go and check that out.
We'll definitely put that up on the screen there, too, to go along there with this, so that you get more. If anyone wants to reach out to you personally, is there a different way that people can contact you then, Brian, that you're comfortable with giving, or is there or just through the caulifloweralleyclub.org?
caulifloweralleyclub.org. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Leave messages, or go to the killerbstore.net. I'll answer messages there, and
awesome.
Those are the two best ways. It's been a pleasure to be on your show. Dan, you're great. You're a legend. And Eric, you do a great job with the show. I'm glad you guys are together, and I hope Unleashed continues to be successful and blossoms and people listen, because you got two great hosts here who ask great questions and very cordial.
Well, we want people to get their story out, and it's all about really them. And it's I'm just a curious George. I mean, it's
one thing I want to say really quick. Is that the Killer Bees should be in the Hall of Fame, and let me tell you why. The Killer Bees were in. Not only were they in 3 WrestleManias, the big event, the Survivor Series, won the Survivor Series, the Royal Rumble. We were there 85, 86, 87. I worked for Vince for 2 years. In the words of Chief Jay Strongbow, Mr. Wonderful got his heat because of the matches he had with B. Brian Blair. So I helped build Orndorff for WrestleMania 1, then came back to 2, 3, 4, did all their commercials, LJN, the Toyota commercial. We did all the first overseas tours. We did so much stuff. I mean, we were the hottest tag team on the planet. We were in Cracker Jack boxes. You could go to Circle K's. We were in Circle K cards. We were everywhere. And it seems like, I don't want to blame Jimmy. Jimmy's a tremendous athlete. It's like George Scott was the booker, and he fired Jimmy before Jimmy came there, and I didn't know when Jimmy and I got together that he had sued Vince and won. And so we kind of started out on a bad foot. But anyway, with all that adversity, we were ahead of the pack. You know, the young bucks say, we're the first innovators to wear tennis shoes into the ring. Well, no. Look at WrestleMania 3. We wore the Nike Dunks. And I mean, the list goes on. We did so many things when the tag team division was part of the heart and soul behind Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Ricky Steamboat, Macho Man. And then, you know, you had your tag team division, and we just rock and rolled. We had the highest rated segment on Saturday night main event against the Hart Foundation. And we were promised the belts 3 times, and they kept reeling them. Finally, I gave my notice and went on and opened Gold's Gyms, became an elected politician, and did more things than most people do in their whole lifetime. And you got some of these jabronis in the Hall of Fame there that I don't understand how they got there. I'm not talking about the wrestlers, but some other people that, you know, have nothing to do with wrestling. Have nothing to do with wrestling, you know. And here you got 2 guys that gave their heart and soul for, you know, 5 and 7 years respectively each to the business, to the Fed.
You're in the biggest era.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
I mean, it's the truth. They've tried to rewrite history numerous times, but I mean, back in the day, I mean, you guys were my heroes.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, that's what, you know, the rock and wrestling connection. We're on the wrestling album. So many things. I can't even name them all. But I mean, we were literally, I mean, we couldn't go into airports, nowhere. I mean, we would get mobbed, and it's just, it was absolutely, there was no internet. Can you imagine if you had the internet there? Can you imagine if somebody's light bulb went off and sold, when we did Mass Confusion, which was so freaking hot, if they would have sold the masks, how much money they could have made? Oh, gosh. But anyway, I had to get that out of my system because I said I was going to earlier today, and I had forgotten about it because you guys were so interesting.
No, I'm glad you got a chance to say all that there, Brian. This is people just don't understand what I mean. The new things that are at the fingertips. That if we would have had the same technology 10 years, 20 years ago, what would have happened? It's the fact that you can direct your life in so many different directions. You could be speaking to people on the other side of the world, and no, this is great innovation.
Absolutely,
great innovation, but still. Keep staying in there and doing what you do with the Cali club. Yeah, that's just, to me, it's like that's something that you do that just to be just great. But keep doing all other things that you're doing as well. So
I will. I appreciate it, guys, and I wish you nothing but good things.
Okay. All right, Brian. You take care.
You guys as well. God bless.
Yep.